Welcome to All Things Policy, a daily podcast supported by Pragati, a flagship media initiative of the Takshashila Institution. We're a bunch of policy nerds based in Bengaluru, and we like to bring a fresh perspective to Indian affairs and an Indian perspective to global affairs. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and join us for today's chat.
Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of All Things Policy. I am Kingshuk Saha, a researcher at the Takshila Institution. With me is my colleague Dr. Nithiyanandam Yogeswaran, a professor at the Takshila Institution. Today we'll discuss the National Geospatial Policy 2022. Hello Nithya. It's great to have you in All Things Policy.
Good morning, Kingshu. Thank you. So nice to be here.
Yeah, you are welcome, Nitya. Geospatial technology is an emerging field of study that has immense strategic and economic potential. So, Nitya, what is geospatial technology? What is the
Yeah,
definition of geospatial technology and what is geospatial data? As well, the subfield of geospatial technology. Can you please explain it to us?
yeah. To start with, the geospatial technology is like, let's say, other technologies like biotechnology, dealing with biology and all. Geospatial technology is dealing with Earth and its relationship between features on the Earth. So it's all driven by a term location. So if any data that has a location component associated to it, that becomes a geospatial data. So before we get into geospatial technologies or the subdomains of geospatial technologies, we can start with what is geospatial data. As I told you, any form of data which has the location information attached to it is called geospatial data. So the geospatial data again can broadly be classified into two forms. One is raster, other one is vector. So when I say raster, the raster is nothing but a photograph that we click, right? When we click a photograph, if we zoom into the maximum possible extent, so we can see something called a pixel. So if we have a location information attached to that pixel, then it is called a geospatial raster data. So maybe you would be thinking, what is the location information, how it appears, what form it is. So the location we are talking about is in the form of latitude and longitude values. The latitudinal and longitudinal values are exist for each and every point on the earth. It is basically an imaginary line drawn based on understanding of the size and the shape of the earth. So anywhere you go on the earth, that place has a unique latitude and longitudinal value. This helps us to place ourselves on the earth and locate ourselves on the earth. For say if a person is walking on a road, we say that somebody is walking ahead of me, 500 meters ahead of me, or 200 meters behind me. That is called as relative distance. But there is no location, actual location value plays in this context. But when I say I am somewhere located in a forest, there is no relative measurement. In that case, the precise latitudinal and longitudinal information comes as handy. So whether you are in a forest, whether you are in a vast ocean, whether you are anywhere on the land, if you really want to locate yourself with a global reference, there's something called latitude and longitude information is required. So any data which carries this latitude or longitude information is called geospatial data. And I said the raster data sets are basically which are photograph types in which you have the smallest pixel itself carries the values of latitude and longitude. So that when you overlay it, when you keep it on top of any other geospatial data, it overlaps and sits on the same feature. Suppose imagine a photograph, you are clicking it from an aircraft towards your, when you're looking down your city from a plane and clicking on it. That's a beautiful photograph, but if you if you drop it on top of any geospatial data, that won't sit. What we do, we try to give the location information to each of the pixel in that photograph so that when you place it over any geospatial data, that sits nicely. So that is the raster type of geospatial data sets. Photograph is one example, but there are many types of raster data sets that can be of temperature data, that can be of precipitation data, that can be of pollution information, that are varied sources. The second type of geospatial data is a vector data. The vector form is basically we use on analytics of data in geospatial technology. The vector is represented in three major forms: point, line, and polygon. Point is an important factor which governs the line and the polygon. It is simply, we can say, if I wanted to locate a place in a map, I need a point type representation. If I really wanted to represent a roadway, waterway, railways, then I need a line type of representation. If I want to represent a pond in a map, a land parcel in a map, want to represent a country's boundary, district boundary in a map, then I need to go for an entity called polygon. This point, line, and polygon are not distinct from each other. Basically, if you connect more than one point in a linear manner, that is line. If you enclose that line, it becomes a polygon. Why we require raster, why we require vector? In some form of geospatial analysis, the raster data sets would come as handy. When some sort of spatial analysis, we require vector form of data. In short, any feature on the earth can be represented in three entities which I have told: point, line, and polygon. So for spatial analysis of those individual entities, vector data comes as comfortable. So this is about geospatial data. The last thing, when this geospatial terms are coined, it has coined only in the late 20th century. We used to have the subdomains called GIS, remote sensing, and global navigation satellite system. But the three of them were combined together in the late 20th century, and combinedly it is called as geospatial technologies. Why? Because spatial or location information plays crucial role in all three technologies. That's how it were combined and commonly brought under an umbrella. If anybody studies the subject, geospatial science or technology, that is also known as geoinformatics. That is, the information technology deals with Earth features and its relationship between objects. So now, what is the GIS, remote sensing, the GNSS, the three subdomains of geospatial technology? Remote sensing is an art or science of acquiring information about features without having physical contact to it. Let's say if the data is collected from an aeroplane, from a satellite, or from an unmanned aerial vehicles, that data is known as remotely observed data. This is not only applicable to images, it also applicable to, let's say, a temperature is being measured without having physical contact with an object. If a pollution is observed from without physical contact with an object, then those are basically known as remote sensing data sets. GIS is a platform in which all these geospatial data sets were analyzed, visualized, and modeled in order to see the future predictions also. And the third one is a navigation system. By name itself, it is a system based on constellation of satellites in order to provide precise location on the Earth. So these three technologies were brought together and commonly known as geospatial technologies.
It seems very interesting, like this new technology. It has an immense potential, and taking for like seeing the National Geospatial Policy paper and going through the preamble of it. The preamble of the geospatial policy talks about geospatial technology as the application is almost every domain of economy, ranging from agriculture to industries, development of urban or rural infrastructure, administration of land, economic activity, of banking, finance. Like it seems huge potential. So can you explain, Nitya, like how significantly it can aid the government in better governance, and most importantly, how it can benefit the common people, and why should they be, like interested in and look forward to it?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I would say the common people is already utilizing this subject in a great deal. It is not, the terms may be unfamiliar to people, but the technology is already been with people. Let's say everyone who uses a smartphone, they are already utilizing the technology in a greater detail. Right from the apps that we use on our smartphones, it requires access for the location. The moment you give access to these applications, that all takes the location information where your GPS plays or GNSS systems of India's and other countries plays a bigger role in it. Yeah,
Nitya, if I may chip in, like you said, we use smartphone like in our daily life by and large. So something like, can we say that be it Swiggy or Uber that we use also use this technology?
yes. So the first step is, as I said, most of the application require location access to it. That's the first step. The moment you have given location access, the moment they understand our location, the next step is to plot it on a map. Then, if it is just plotting on a map, and then if you want to find the location or the route to an unknown place, there your Google Maps comes in. Or else, if you want to identify your location on the map, there the delivery can be delivered. Swiggy, Zomato can play a role. And if it is the vehicle, when you're booking a vehicle and Uber wants to reach you, there also location plays an information a vital role. Location as well as the map both plays a crucial role in it. And the analytics behind helping you to reach a place A to place B in a shorter time, uh, in a in a less congested route, that analysis is also called as spatial analysis. So I've given a very basic example in which how this technology is already been with you for so many years now. As you rightly said, this policy says it has wide application in almost many of the discipline. That is because it has a key role in many of the domains disciplines. Let's say if you talk about agricultural land and land administration in rural areas, I just try to give some examples to each of this. If you see this land parcels, which are it generally comes in a lot of litigation happens in these places where the agricultural land boundaries are altered by people over a period of time, right? So the one of the greatest effort the government of India has taken is to digitize these records. So when I say digitize this record, not only transforming the boundaries in the digital form, but also to give a spatial connotation to it, so that each land parcel are registered with owners, unique identification record, so that when the boundary, if somebody wants to change a boundary in future, that is not possible. And let's say when there is a disaster and all these boundaries are taken away and there is impossible to regain the boundary, then also geospatial technology plays a crucial role to get back the location the land parcel belongs to a person. So this is on the land registration to avoid most of the litigations in the country. The second is on precision farming. It helps the farmers to indicate what kind of weather condition is expected next couple of days, what you need to do, what kind of agricultural crops would be suitable for your area. All these are informed by geospatial, different components of geospatial technology. I would say some are taken care by GIS, some are taken care by remote sensing, some are taken care by location information systems, and all together at some extent, especially in urban and rural areas. It has wide applications. That's why the smart cities, the data sets are being built on GIS platform itself, because it enables user to modify the data. It helps the governance, especially the urban governance, in a better way. You can connect your tax collection system with that. You can monitor your utilities with that. You can make plans, the management plan, development plan, infrastructure plan, with the help of GIS data. One, compared to a classical AutoCAD drawings, this is not just a drawing. This allows you to incorporate a huge database associated with that, so that anybody wants to keep an eye on a particular house, whether they are paying tax and who is the owner of the house, how many people are living in it, how many electricity connection they have, and what kind of services they have availed. whether they have paid the water bill on time. All of that information will come handy if I just make a click on one particular building. It will give you all the associated information which were collected by multiple departments. So there are few urban systems which works on it, and we are aspiring to have all our urban systems and even in fact small and medium towns to be built with this digital infrastructure. And ideally, it is called as digital twin in the geospatial policy by 2035 in the country. So, and other than this, banking and finance. Let's say somebody wants to, the banking company wants to know where can they put the next ATM. It is not randomly placed. They wanted to see where it will be placed in order to leverage the maximum benefit. So that is driven by something called location based services. So based on your location, the service is defined. You can see whether the service is sufficient on a particular place or not. All this can be driven by geospatial technology. It has a crucial role. And the finance companies, especially insurance, like the crop insurance, people sees the crop type and crop conditions over a period of time, and they accordingly decide the insurance premium to that particular region. So these are some of examples of this technology on different domains.
Yeah, so moving forward, the policy papers aims to make India a world leader in geospatial space, Nitya. So what are India's strength and challenge in meeting this goal? Like, so can you, if you illustrate
Yeah,
this?
this is a very interesting question. The policy has the policy has evolved over a period of time. It has not just envisaged and emerged in a short time. In fact, the previous version of this policy was shown a strong negative impact when it was drafted. Like the strong reflected badly by the academia, industry, and many people because of certain aspects associated with it. Then the team has taken a huge time to revamp it, and largest stakeholders are consultant. And this policy, which has been released in 2020 to December, is a collaborative effort of various stakeholders, and by considering India's present and future requirements in mind. This itself a strength. I would say it as a strength because for implementing this kind of technology at many parts of daily practices is only possible if there is a strong will from the government. So the government has realized its potential and has believe that it will really help us to grow more in an effective manner. So that's why I see it as a strength in India, where the commitment from the government exists to take this technology not only to urban areas, even in rural areas, and few efforts are even taken to do it at district levels so that the approvals and e-governance can be made it in an effective manner. The policy decisions can be made it in an effective manner. At the same time, there are certain challenges. What I feel is especially on the professional workforce required at levels. When we are looking at digital infrastructure for every cities, every rural areas, every district in the country, and all need to be surveyed by private industries, and all need to be mapped or all need to be transformed into a digital infrastructure. For that, we require a substantial amount of expertise within the country, a professional expertise. I'm not talking about building only masters and PhD scholars. We need skill laborers at a diploma level, certificate level, even for specific purposes. So that we have so many institutions building capacity at different levels, but the scale of intervention required at the lower and middle levels are less. So when I say lower and middle level, which are the person does not require a comprehensive skill of the subject. The person may require particular skill to implement a certain aspect of the work. So that is something where we need to strengthen. The industries need to focus, and since it is a transdisciplinary subject, there is a multiple opportunity for any new university or any new institution who works on it to jump into it and provide capacity to people. And the another opportunity or challenge I would say is this becomes an opportunity for the industries. But the challenge is one more challenge is to bring all the stakeholders on a table, because currently the policy has identified several thematic areas. Let's say 15 different ministries are collaborating together, or I would say 15 different working groups need to work together on different aspects or different thematic areas. Now, certain areas are overlapping to each other, or it is a nature, it may have few overlaps to one another. In that case, how this departments comes together, and there are certain organizations which are set up in order to bring them together. The challenge is how it will go when it becomes a reality, and how well we are going to maintain our committed timelines, which are envisaged in the policy, would be our challenge.
Yeah, Nitya, it seems really fascinating. No, that geospatial technology has lot of scope, especially for in the public policy and governance for better delivery of system. So, can you like give with some example how it can be used, to bring more transparency in one hand and building up the capacity in another hand. So, if you can please illustrate with some example,
Yeah.
it will be really useful.
Sure. So, if I can straightly jump into an example, it really brings, the ultimate aim is to bring transparency in the system. Suppose if an approval for mines are given through geospatial technology, you know what is an extent that you are giving, and you can monitor it, and people can ensure that what is defined in the paper is actually carried out on the ground. If there is a development project, whatever is given as a task, and one can verify it, and the particular task is completed. So that is the evidence that can bring that geospatial technology can bring. Second is there are many schemes in which, at instance, the particular a particular area has been benefited under a same under different schemes for the same purpose. So for that we can actually minimize, and it can, if the location information is same, it cannot be modified. At least if a name, if people can modify a name or spelling to it, and in database it becomes distinct, but location information cannot be changed. So that helps to minimize this kind of malpractices, and helps a better governance and effective governance on a timely basis. There is much transparency when geospatial data comes in place in many of this governance. And when it comes to capacity building, there's a lot of things to be built when you require the system. One, we would say we would be requiring the Indian entities to work on our problems and our requirements. So in that way, there will be a huge opportunity for youngsters, especially the rural youngsters, who can contribute to some of aspects like surveying, where all the rural areas and urban areas to be mapped in the country, and a lot of digitizations are required. So all this, where there is a huge chance for capacity building. And of course, there's one more area in addition to formal education at master's and PhD level. Some high-tech research need to be taken care by the institution, especially at the moment when we are going to collect huge amount of geospatial data, which we are not envisaging much. When we are seeing all these places need to collect, all the departments need to collect data, how we are going to handle data sets collected by different people. There are certain data standards laid out, but to reach out that data standard and what we are going to do that with the data is going to be a real capacity building activity for us.
Moving to the next question, Nitya, the policy paper talk about private sector. So, what is the policy intervention needed to make the private sector a key stakeholder in the geospatial ecosystem? Because for government entity, it is not possible, to be part of each and everything. So, we need a greater private sector contribution also. So, if you can share your thought on
Yeah.
this.
In fact, the policy itself, this policy and previous, sub policy on data sharing is all talking about promoting indigenization and promoting Indian entities to flourish. The policy itself acknowledged the things cannot be done by government entities alone, and it requires the private agencies to capture data and to develop into a full-fledged geospatial infrastructure also. So the government agencies facilitates the process mostly, and the data collection and data management would be driven by these private players. And they were taken into consultation at many stages so far. And in fact, the draft policies were reviewed by the Association of Industries at different times, because we just had a visionary document which has several expectations from industries and from different government departments. One thing I would say, what is required is a consistent backing from government for Indian private industries at least, to assist them and to solve their practical challenges when they try to help government, when they try to build this infrastructure. They would be facing some unique challenges. For that, trying immediate intervention from government will help them to reach goal, and together we can able to achieve our vision of full-fledged geospatial infrastructure in 10-15 years.
Nitya, like it's a bit early to ask, but still, like, what are some of the lacunas of the National Geospatial Policy of 2022?
I would still say it is too early to think, because this is our first policy. We do not have such. So, when I say the gaps are not clearly evident at this stage. At this moment, it is satisfying industry, academia, and other stakeholders in the system. And probably we need to wait for a year or two to understand what are the gaps, and so that time to time learnings can help to revise as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Nitya, for your insight. And with this, we'll end today's podcast.
If you liked our show, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can tune into them on the IVM Podcast app, ivmpodcast.com, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also follow IVM on social media. The handle is at IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And hey, if you'd like to dive into Takshashila's research on technology, strategy, and economic affairs, check us out at our Twitter handle at Takshashila INST or our website takshashila.org.in.